we're at that time of the year where everyone's kind of putting out what they think each team in baseball will do. Fangraphs did the same. I'll get to that in a minute. They came out with their formal projections, which they set in spring training, and during the season they'll update them based on things that have been played. But Baseball Prospectus has sort of made all of this kind of stuff, projections, forecasts, famous because every year around this time they put out the Pecota projections. And look, there's no reason for me to go to a deeply involved explanation. You can go to baseballprospectus.com about what Pecota means, how they do this, all that stuff. But, you can probably figure it out. It's based on the talent at hand, the schedule, all these other factors. And they put it into an all-knowing baseball computer that gives them an answer. But this Pecota thing drives fans and media crazy. And so the good people at Baseball Prospectus have really gotten a kick, about stirring things up. Not that they're not rigging the projections to get attention. It's just that whenever these things come out, I mean, there are just so many people outraged, including teams themselves. I remember the Cubs one year during their run under Joe Madden were greatly offended by the Pecota projections that had them finishing with a lot fewer victories than they thought that they would get. And so you had like John Lester and some of those guys. I mean, they're actually just like mad, literally mad at spring training and belittling and ridiculing Pecota. So they're, basically, blasting a computer, and I just think it's really funny. And so Baseball Prospectus has always had a really good sense of humor about this. And they make fun of themselves because they can't get the Cardinals right. And that's what makes this so funny. When it comes out every year, it's going to be, all right, how are they going to undervalue the Cardinals this year? And even they're in on the joke because it's not a joke. All they can do is kind of throw their hands up and say, we can't get this team right. And that's to their credit because they actually have a pretty good format for this, but there's certain things about the Cardinals I guess the computer doesn't understand, and I really do think it's funny. So here's the deal. What about the 2023 Cardinals? Well, Cardinals fans, here's a negative takeaway. In its simulation model, Pecota has the Cardinals winning all the simulations they run, an average of 85.8 games, finishing second to Milwaukee in the NL Central and failing to make the 2023 playoffs. So according to Pecota's saying Cardinals ain't even going to be in the playoffs, and they're going to win about 7 fewer games than they did last year when they won the 93 games and the NL Central. So Pecota's got the 23 Cardinals out of the playoffs. Now, here's some positive comfort for you. The Cardinals do an outstanding job of outperforming the Pecota projections every year. It's really uncanny. And the gang at Baseball Prospectus, they're the first one to admit it. The Cardinals have made a habit out of kicking Pecota's data-driven ass, basically. And they've done it for a long time. Rob Maines, who's the analyst that writes these pieces the last few years anyway, he said, nobody can match the Cardinals. He's talking about all the teams and the projections. Nobody can match the Cardinals. They've exceeded their Pecota projection for 9 straight seasons. And it doesn't count the 2020 pandemic-shortened season. They're only including the full seasons, and that's what they should do. So if you go to baseballprospectus.com and take a look at this, you'll see this. And I'll go down the list really, really quick. 2013, they projected 84 wins. The Cardinals won 97. So that's a plus 13 in your interface for the Cardinals. In 2014, 88 wins projected. They actually won 90. So the Cardinals defeated Pecota by 2. 2015, 89 wins projection. They win 100. That's an 11-win victory for the Cardinals over Pecota. 2016, 81 wins, actual wins 86, plus 5 for the Cardinals. 2017 projected, 77 wins. Actual wins 83. Not that that was great, but it's a +6 for St. Louis, and that's now a 5-year winning streak for the St. Louis in defying the Pecota projections. In 2018, 85 wins projected. Actual wins 88. The Cardinals win by 3. In 2019, projected 86 wins, actually 91. Cardinals win by 5. In 2021, the last 2 years are pretty amazing. 2021, Pecota said 78 wins. That's it. Cardinals won 90, and they whooped Pecota by 12. This past season, 79 wins only were projected for the Redbirds. 79 wins. Actual wins, 93. +14 margin for the Cardinals. So if you go over these 9 seasons, the Cardinals have outperformed the Pecota forecast over the 9 seasons by a total of 71 wins, which means that Pecota has undervalued the Redbirds by an average of about 7.8. We can round it off and just call it 8 wins per year. I just think it's really funny. It's like no matter what they do, most years they can't even come close to getting it right in what they predict or forecast for the Cardinals.
That is interesting that they're off that much with the
right?
Cardinals. As for a team that, let's face it, the organization has their formula, and they go, this is how many wins we need to win this division or get us into the playoffs. And yet somebody who has a model of trying to predict what the Cardinals are doing, they're off short every year. That's pretty amazing because that's what the Cardinals are. They're basically a formula. This is what we need to do to get in. I mean, I don't know that every team's doing it, but the Cardinals are. And this group of number pushers, they can't figure it out either what the Cardinals have got going on. That's crazy, especially the year, what was it, you said 73, and they ended up, or no, I'm sorry, the year they ended up with 91, and they were, I don't know, they had them well below 500 or right at 500.
Well, we can just limit it to the past 2 years because first of all, there was a seven full season streak where Pecota came up short in estimating what the Cardinals would do, how many wins they would get. So it's 7 years in a row, which is incredible. But then the capper are the last 2 years. So the Cardinals won 12 more games than Pecota projected in 2021. And then in 2022, the Cardinals won 14 more games than Pecota projected. So that the last 2 seasons, that's 26 wins. I mean, Pecota was off by 26 wins. And as they said, like, nobody does this. I mean, the Cardinals, no one is like the Cardinals for an effect taking it to Pecota. And so that's why, I want to make sure we can have some fun with this. Like, if you're a St. Louis Cardinals fan, don't be grouchy. Don't call these people idiots. They're really good at what they do. A lot of groundbreaking stuff, but their Pecota, their computer formula just underestimates Cardinals every single year. And the 2 most recent years, it's by a lot. And that's funny. So my message to Cardinals fans out there, don't be grouchy. Given how off target Pecota's projections have been on the Cardinals, you should embrace another bummer projection. Been there, done that. The Cardinals befuddle Pecota, period. And I'm thinking Ali Marmol can actually probably have some fun with this too. So Rob Maines, not to be confused with Rob Raines, by the way. Rob Maines, he wrote as if taunting. He didn't mean it as a taunt, but as if saying like, well, we're still going to go with Pecota says. So he wrote, quote, and once again, the Cardinals, they'll go from division champion to watching postseason on TV. He wrote about Pecota. He said, I did tell you that their division will suffer from the new schedule. Pecota sees the Brewers supplanting the Redbirds in the National League playoffs to get into the National League playoffs in 2023, though with Atlanta as the second wild card instead of the division champion after Steve Cohen's shopping spree. So he anticipated questions like, well, why? Why would you think the Cardinals would go from 93 wins in what's still a bad division, even with fewer games in the division, But why do you think they would go to from 93 wins, win the division, and all of a sudden, that's it? They don't even make the playoffs. And Rob Main said, look, he even made a joke. He said, there's not a line of Pecota's code that says if team equals SLN, then wins equal wins minus 10. Like it just spits out automatically, taking 10 wins off their total. But he said, hey, he was explaining, how it happens that they're so off. He says, hey, you get a breakout year from Tyler O'Neill. He's talking about these past several years. You get a back from Yomiuri, Japan, Miles Michaelis. Then you add a 1-3 finish in the MVP vote from Goldschmidt and Arenado, plus your basic Cardinals Devil Magic, which he lists as Alan Craig's 2013, Aledmus Diaz 2016, Tommy Pham's 2017, and then Albert Pujols' swan song. And he says, well, you're going to confound projection systems. And that's true, because that's really what it's all about. I think the entire industry, and I think even the fan base, not everybody, but I think the Cardinal fan base tends to underestimate what the Cardinals are going to do too. I mean, we joke about it on the show all the time. Some of the feedback we get and some of the feedback that I get, I exaggerate on purpose, but it's like I don't know if some of these fans are talking about the Cardinals or they're talking about the Pittsburgh Pirates. It's like, well, listen, they're not that bad. What do you seriously? It's just settle down. They're not that bad. They may have disappointed you in the offseason, but so before we all trash Pecota, we ought to look at ourselves, because we actually tend to underestimate the Cardinals every year. And it is that, it is that devil magic factor that kicks in a lot. It really does, where they get these incredible, unexpected seasons from unlikely sources. And there is a consistent pattern of that through the DeWitt era, for sure. We could name a lot of them if we set our minds to it. Who's going to be the devil magic Cardinal this year? In other words, it can't be someone that's already front and center on the radar as someone's going to put up good numbers or have a good season or who's well established. It's either some old guy that does much better than we anticipate, or it's some guy they drafted in the 8th or 9th round or the 13th round or whatever, like a Matt Carpenter who all of a sudden becomes a star for a few years. It's stuff like that. It's people like Alan Craig in 2013. There were no real expectations. Go look at his numbers and what he did. All kinds of pitchers have fit the devil magic tableau. So I'll have to go back and maybe come up with an all-devil magic team. The Cardinals have had a lot of that. And I really do think, despite the glib nickname for it, but the actual reality, the way they do seem to come up with players that aren't on the radar very prominently, or had been let go by another organization, or they got in some minor deal that everyone, like me, I do it all the time. I shrug. I'm like, what? I'll give you another example of a devil magic season where with about a week to go in spring training back in, I don't remember the year, it doesn't matter, they signed Pat Neshek to a minor league deal with a chance to make good and stick with the big club. And he was an all-star reliever that year. I mean, nobody expected that. He was great. When they traded for Edward Mujica, all Cardinals fans were screaming because somebody in their division, I can't remember who it was, it might have been the Reds, got Jonathan Broxton, and Walt Jocketty traded for, no, actually this is Mo. Mo traded for a setup guy named Edwin Mujica. And I remember hosting the show at the old place, and our text message line just going absolutely ballistic. Oh, see, the Reds are trying to win. They trade for Broxton. Mo gets this guy. I don't know. Does anyone ever heard of this guy? Who is this guy? He's nothing. Mujica, for about a year and a half, 2 years, was really good. He was an all-star one season, and well-deserved until, well, the meat grinder got him.
Yeah.
Yeah, So
Texter sends in.
No, actually, the wood chipper. That was his nickname.
Yes, the wood chipper.
The wood chipper got him.
texter says, I think this year's Devil Magic will be, and I'll do it as he types it, Drew Verhagen.
Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be something?
There you go.
So anyway, with Rob Maines, he says, so what's different? Well, they have a 35-year-old first baseman coming off an MVP season, a 32-year-old third baseman coming off the second best year of his career, meaning that Pecota doesn't think Goldschmidt and Arenado can do that again or come close to it. And then he talks about you have like 4 players in the wins above replacement range that were really good last year, Donovan, Nootbaar, Edman, and Pujols, that either have the risk of regression or the guarantee of retirement. And he said their 3 top pitchers by projected innings are 34, 41, and 30 years old. It's not hard to see some slippage. I would have to correct Pecota there, though. I think not Hank. What am I doing? Matz is 31, maybe. But his point's correct. I mean, Miklasz is 34, Wainwright's 41, and then you have Matz who's in there next, and I think Jordan Montgomery would come after that, age 30. He said, might they beat the Pecota projection? Sure, but if so, you really should chalk it up to variance or defying the aging curve or other teams in the division rolling over and playing dead, or maybe Matthew Liberatore, Jordan Walker becoming household names. He said, it's not Pecota hate, really. He's saying there are reasons for this. But one of the things that Pecota does, the People Baseball Prospectus, which is a lot of fun, when they drop all the Pecota projections every year, right? Mm-hmm. They always title it. They have the same headline on it every year, and it's funny. It's why Pecota hates your team. Because usually the first reaction they get from fans who are very dissatisfied with the projection, it's like, yeah, we know it. Yeah, we get it. You people in Pecota, you hate our team. Yeah, we get it. Okay, great. What else is new? That kind of people just assume there's some kind of hatred built into the programming. I don't know.
I think the last 2 years, as far as Pecota and the Cardinals are concerned, I think they've underestimated the red truck and the use of Mike Gersh finding pitchers.
Finding guys.
Yeah. There's your
go. Those guys, Quintana was Devil Magic last year, right?
Yes, he was.
Lester and Happ certainly were the year before that. I don't think I would call Montgomery Devil Magic because, listen, he was in the starting rotation, for one of the best teams in baseball. It's not like he was some fringe guy, right?
Right.
Gallegos is Devil Magic when he was traded over in the Luke Voigt trade. The number one guy in that trade in the receiving end for the Cardinals was that mediocre lefty because they were desperate for a lefty, Chasen Shreve. That's who the Cardinals really wanted, and they talked the Yankees into including Gallegos. Gallegos is a Devil Magic guy. That Pecota couldn't have picked up on that. David Freese is a Devil Magic guy. Are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. You trade Jim Edmonds for a Double-A dude, right?
Yeah, good call.
That the Angels had sort of like, well, we have other third basemen we like better in our system, and Freese is expendable. Let's give him up. Total Devil Magic guy. There's no question about it. So that's what we're talking about. So now I'm curious, and now I want to get to work on something, like in terms of maybe writing a column about this at Scoops with Danny Mac. Who are the best Devil Magic candidates on the Cardinals for this season? And I welcome you all really very much to send in a text message about that. But again, and I'm not being grumpy. I'm just saying I'm not don't. I'll give you an example of someone not to nominate as the top Devil Magic guy. Like it can't be, it can't be. It can't even be Nolan Gorman. I mean, the guy was a first-round draft pick, right?
Right.
He had 80% of his season was really good last year. Like that would not be a fitting Devil Magic nominee. It's got to be someone that has no expectations or very modest. Could it be a Moises Gomez, for example? I think that would fit. Even though, and I'm not saying he will be that guy, but at least Moises Gomez, despite leading all of the minors in home runs last year, he's still a guy that the Tampa Bay Rays gave up on. And the Tampa Bay Rays are pretty much top of the heap when it comes to analyzing talent. So Gomez would fit in that type of situation, because if Tampa Bay gives up on you, you can't be all that good. Juan Yepes last year fit the Devil Magic profile a little bit. I know he did some things in the minors, but let's not get carried away. I mean, the Braves gave up on him, and it took him a while to get through the system, and I don't think he had any kind of major expectations. He exceeded them. A little touch of Devil Magic there. So they've had guys like that. Brendan Donovan last year might have been the number one Devil Magic guy on the Cardinals. No one expected that. Almost a 400 on-base percentage, playing 6 defensive positions, several quite well, and nothing worse than average at any of the other ones. I think he was the Devil Magic winner for 2022.
Yeah, we had a couple of people just text that in with Donovan. I think,
but he's not eligible for that this year.
No, there was a suggestion. I think it's for this year. It's just simply put in Jake Woodford.
I think he's been around too long.
Okay. And
there's been a lot of people on his side. I mean, including me. I've raised hell about it a number of times. So no, that's. I don't think he would qualify.
Interesting. That was just a couple of the texts we just got.
Because it's usually someone that the Cardinals really like, and the rest of us are kind of like, eh. Well, we know the Cardinals don't really like him, And if he succeeds, many of us wouldn't be surprised at all. So that it can't be a Devil Magic guy.
I can't remember this person's name, and neither can the texter. But the texter points out, isn't there a guy who was a Rule 5 guy that throws 100 miles an hour? It could be him. There is.
Well, it could be the dude that the what's his name, Wilking?
Yes.
The Rule 5 guy. They pulled him out of Mexico, but I think he was. I don't even know what team he was. Yankees. I think Yankees controlled his rights, but he went to Mexico and he adjusted something, and now he's throwing 101. That's a good nominee. That's a really good nominee. Because if you throw that hard, man, you got a chance to be really good. I mean, it doesn't mean you will be good.
Right.
But you got a chance to be really good. And you're not just a guy. You're bringing something to the competition.
Another texter asked, would Gordon Graceffo be a candidate for that?
No. He's a highly regarded prospect.
Here we go. So those are some of our texts there. But I can't. I'll see if I can find that guy's name. But you're right. That guy from the Yankees would definitely be.
All right,
Wilking Rodriguez. Thank you.
Wilking Rodriguez.
Thank you.
Well, let's. We're going to have Andy Strickland at 4:30. So, let me finish this out. I apologize since we have a little time to play with before we take a break.
Mm-hmm.
So, Fangraphs also released its first set of MLB playoff odds, more positive than Pecota. The Cardinals' average win total projection is 88.2 wins. Now, that would be a drop from last year. There's no doubt about it. 93, they'd be down by about 5 wins. But at least Fangraphs, their model, puts the Cardinals in first place above the Brewers, with the Brewers about 86 wins if we round it off. Division title probability, St. Louis 56.5%, Milwaukee 37.6%. So Fangraphs sees the Cardinals as the clear team to beat, the clear favorite in the NL Central. And I'm not saying, well, Cody, let's start playing in a parade. I'm not saying that. I'm just telling you what the projection is. It's actually, they're a little skeptical of how good the Cardinals are overall. But Fangraphs gives the Cardinals a 72.5% chance of making the playoffs, a 22.2% chance to clinch a first-round bye in the postseason, which they couldn't do last year. And they give the Cardinals basically about a 5% chance at winning the World Series. So who are the teams to beat in terms of which NL team is going to win the pennant and then get to the World Series, even win the World Series? Atlanta, 14.5%. These are among National League teams. Atlanta, 14.5%. The Padres, 12%. The Mets, 9%. And then the Dodgers and Cardinals at 5.1% each. So the Cardinals are in the picture, but they're pretty far down from where Atlanta and the Padres are. I'm surprised the Mets don't have a little more juice there. I thought they'd be, 11, 12%.
Yeah.
So this stuff's always interesting, and all it is just I find it always interesting to just see how the team you follow or even just various teams, if you're curious, it's just always fun to see the initial perception of how good they are or maybe how disappointing they will be. That's all this is. It's just fun to look at what all the programming results in as far as like giving you a number about, all right, this is what we expect. And it's always fun to just see, okay, are you underestimating them? Are you overrating them? And you'll see teams in both categories, or one category or the other. So